The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. This is Liz Comiskey from the Farmers Market Coalition. Welcome to today's webinar on food safety. We're really excited about this one because it's definitely been a very hot topic for the past couple of years, and we have two great panelists who are going to share lots of good information. So thanks for joining us. Get my slide to forward here. So we have Mareya Ibrahim, who is the founder and CEO of Eat Cleaner and Grow Green Industries. And we also have Brian Moyer, who's the program assistant of Penn State Extension in Pennsylvania. Brian's also a farmer, and he managed a farmer's market for 10 years in Pennsylvania. So I know we have a lot of information to cover, so I want to get started right away. And I'm going to pass it over to Mareya. And do that. Here we go. Mareya, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I was just getting the slideshow going.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Liz, for the introduction, and hi to everybody. I'm Mareya Ibrahim. I'm the founder and CEO of Grow Green Industries. We are the inventors and manufacturers of a line of commercial and consumer products for food safety. And as our logo says here, eco solutions, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that means. Just to jump right into it, I wanted to share with you a little bit about this journey of where we are today as being pioneers for the food safety space. I have a background in food, all things food, starting with retail. I worked for a chain of natural food stores called Alfalfa's Markets and Wild Oats. They were acquired by Whole Foods. But it was really where my love and appreciation for growing and manufacturing and marketing of wholesome foods kind of came about. My father is an environmental scientist. He just retired from Colorado State University, and his master's is in agriculture. And together, we really felt like there was an opportunity to address food safety, not only from the manufacturing perspective, but from the end user, the consumer at home. Because we believe that no matter what happens, you are still the last line of defense for your family. And there are a lot of different touch points for our food. And, you know, ultimately, we have the last say, both in how we, handle the food, how we prepare it, and what we choose to serve our families. I accelerated the process of creating this line of products after my father was diagnosed with cancer. He, thank God, is in full recovery now, but being somebody who has a lowered immune system, it's that much more critical to make sure that the food that we eat is safe and clean. So I'll talk to you a lot about food safety today, what the climate looks like, and what we need to just be aware of, and how our solutions play into that. And just a little personal note about me, too. I am a foodie through and through. I actually go by the name The Fit Foodie. I have a segment on Channel 6 in San Diego every week called The Fit Foodie, where I talk about different quick tips for families to be able to incorporate more produce, and that's the key, into everything that they eat. And a show that I'm on YouTube called Recipe Rehab is going to ABC on Saturday mornings starting October 6th. So hopefully you'll join us on our foodie mission as well. So I couldn't start this without a little bit of humor, and forgive me for this, but E. coli vegetables, I mean, really? At E. coli, I couldn't understand why business was so bad. Well, it's not a funny subject, but you have to think, what goes through people's minds when they see almost every day information about recalls and, the state of our food supply. It's enough to make you kind of sick to your stomach a little bit. But when you stop and look at who's handling your food, there are a lot of different touch points. So before it reaches our plates, it's likely exposed to the elements, and that's just the nature of growing. And then it's trucked, and it's touched, and it's handled. And along the way, it's probably been, dropped somewhere, maybe handled in the dirt, et cetera. Now, according to the Center for Disease Control, over 80% of foodborne illness is attributed to poor food handling practices. So a lot of what we try to do is help consumers understand what they can do to mitigate their risk. The fact of the matter is, and you can find this on the CDC's website, is that water alone will not help to remove most bacteria. Non-water soluble surfaces that we often find nowadays, whether it be wax or pesticide residue that is not water soluble, is not easily rinsed away. So this left us asking, what else can we do rather than just washing with water and really call it clean? So I'm going to go over just some facts on food safety. This is data compiled by the CDC that is available for public consumption. And they revised their numbers just this year significantly based on what they believe are actual reported cases, and in some cases extrapolated based on a statistic that for every reported case there are about 28 unreported cases of foodborne illness. But about 48 million Americans are impacted every year, which is still a huge number. And of those, over 100,000 are hospitalized and 3,000 actually die from foodborne related illnesses. Now, I think what's interesting, and you can see this in this graph, that product recalls have more than doubled since 1999. And in the span of just 2007 to 2008 alone, you're seeing an increase of 60%. Now, we believe that some of that is attributed to just an increase in manufacturing, but also you have to wonder what else is going on there too. Because at the end of the day, microbial contamination is the primary cause of recalls. There are other reasons that food is recalled. It could be allergens, it could be expiration, but microbial contamination is number one. And that could be from E. coli, salmonella, listeria, staph, you name it. And something to know, just I thought this was interesting, only about 1% of all imports are inspected according to the USDA. And there is a lot of food that's coming to us from all over the world. Now, when you look at foodborne illness and what the culprits are, this gives you a sense of what primary bacteria or pathogens are responsible for different reported cases. And you can see the norovirus is high up there on the list, followed by salmonella. But the deadliest of them is salmonella. And you can see that as far as death-related foodborne illness issues, you can see that salmonella here is number one. So something to not ignore, especially I think as it relates to our produce industry. Cantaloupe with recent recall related to salmonella is definitely something that we are very close to looking at, because cantaloupe, as you guys recall, was really quite a problem last year, and I'll go over what made the headlines. So I called 2011 the year of eating dangerously. We saw the number one and number two deadliest recorded U.S. outbreaks in history, actually world outbreaks in history. You saw with cantaloupe 29 deaths in 28 states. That was due to listeria. In Germany, we saw over 50 deaths and 3,000 reported illnesses from E. coli and fresh sprouts. There were also a couple of other pretty big ones. We saw even bagged salad being recalled, about 3,000 cases by Dole, and contaminated papaya that was related to salmonella and affected 23 states. Just a few weeks ago, we saw cantaloupe come up again. So again, this is where we believe that we can really play a role in helping consumers mitigate the risk. Certainly, it's not a one-shot, one approach. It's going to be a multitude of different things that we can help them with helping to protect their own plates. So when you look at who's at risk, we're seeing a growing population, an aging population. 1 in 5 Americans by the year of 2015 is estimated will be over the age of 60 and more susceptible to infection. But the groups, that we want to, really address because they are at the highest risk are elderly, children, and pregnant women, and that constitutes about 1/4 of the population. Even look at, trends now with veganism and vegetarianism and raw food. People are eating a lot more whole fresh foods, which is great. We couldn't ask for more, but it's that much more important to make sure that they're doing it safely. And really, at the end of the day, anybody can get sick. I'll share a personal story with you. A very dear friend of our family's, girl in her late 20s, very healthy, track star, went out to eat at a restaurant, a reputable restaurant, had some ahi tuna that was cross-contaminated with raw poultry, and she contracted a very severe case of foodborne illness that literally shut down her immune system and her nervous system. And she's now in a wheelchair, and it just kind of shocked us all, but just goes to say that, you always have to be careful with what you're eating. So I want to talk about the 10 riskiest foods. And again, this is all data that's available for public consumption. This is compiled by the FDA over a period of about 16 years. And this list was compiled based on reported cases of illness and the number of outbreaks. So this is, based on this data. But number 10 varies, 25 outbreaks, almost 3,400 reported cases of illness. Sprouts, I think with what happened last year, probably even pushed this number up, but 31 outbreaks, over 2,000 reported cases. Tomatoes, up there, you're seeing dairy with ice cream, cheese, also perishable items, dairy items are at risk. Potatoes, over 100 outbreaks and over 3,600 reported cases of illness. Oysters, also certainly issues about handling of oysters and their freshness. Tuna, another one that's high up there at number 3. You've also got eggs, another perishable. And I bet you're wondering what the number 1 case, and maybe you guys can kind of just say it to yourselves, what you think the number 1 riskiest is. It's leafy greens. And that category really kind of encompasses all leafy greens, 363 outbreaks and over 13,000 reported cases of illness. If you kind of just look back over time, spinach outbreaks, lettuce, and we see that a lot primarily because it's highly consumed, and also there are a lot of nooks and crannies in a lot of leafy greens where bacteria can deposit themselves at a very small cellular level. So I want to just share with you a little bit about our product line. I mentioned Eat Cleaner being our consumer line. We also have a line of commercial products for produce handlers, farmers, anybody that's handling produce and seafood and poultry post-harvest to use for their own processing. But Eat Cleaner is a product line that you can find in many retailers in Southern California especially. We're in Albertson, Stater Brothers, some Ralph stores, Sprouts stores, and Whole Foods are the big ones. But we are available online at eatcleaner.com. But we created this line so that consumers could handle their fruit, vegetables, seafood, and poultry when they bring it home from the store. It's the only all-natural line of food wash and wipes, and we are lab-proven. I know that there have been products that have come to the market that are considered produce washes, but we have the actual lab data from 5 different independent labs proving our efficacy. And we take a lot of pride in that and have put a lot of effort and attention towards the actual testing because it's that important to us. Our products are manufactured in the USA using all FDA-approved GROS ingredients in an FDA-approved facility. And you can see the list of ingredients here in our wash. So full disclosure to the consumer and to you so that, you know, there's the highest comfort level in knowing that everything that is in our package is disclosed on the label. And the nice thing is that, you know, we, as a foodie, it was really important to me as we were formulating this that we would create a product that would be not only so safe that my 2 young kids could use it, but it wouldn't change the way your food tastes and smells. And, you know, when you're preparing those fresh strawberries, you don't want them to taste like vinegar or alcohol, which are ingredients that are found in some of the other products out there. We want it just to be a clean, fresh taste as nature intended. And wouldn't it be great if we could also extend shelf life? So with our product, and I'm just going to skip this and I'll come back, you can actually see the difference, the before and after in broccoli and grapes. With the sprayed apple here, you can see the cut apple. You can spray the inside of it, and it can help inhibit browning. So, you know, I know my kids, if I pack an apple, I got to cut it up and spray it for them because if it turns brown, they're not going to eat it. But the important message for consumers is this is going to help your produce last longer, and it's going to keep it from going to waste. We're seeing one of the biggest reasons why consumers say that they don't buy fresh produce is because they hate throwing it away if they don't use it. So if we can help extend that shelf life, give them an extra week, in some cases 2 weeks, out of their fresh produce, they are going to be much more likely to buy more from you and consume it and feel good about it that they haven't wasted their investment. So with that's our consumer line, and I'll just kind of flip back here. You can see these are our core products. Most of you should have received or will be receiving very shortly samples of our wipes along with kind of a list of all of our products. But these are our core products here. Our fruit and vegetable wash. We have a seafood and poultry wash. And then we have the 40-count canister, which can be used on produce directly, but it can also be used to clean hands, utensils, cutting surfaces, anything that comes into contact with your food. I even tell moms, you can clean a binky with it. It's that safe, and you can clean toys with it, anything that a child might stick in their mouth, because it is food grade, no alcohol or chlorine. And then you have the convenient travel wipes. These are great, you know, sticking in your purse, in your glove compartment when you travel. And for the farmer's market, we think these wipes would be really helpful because you can use it when you're sampling, use it to wipe up your surfaces. It makes that whole experience very convenient. And then a little bit about our commercial line. Our Eat Safe product is our commercial grade wash, and our Eat Fresh is our commercial grade all natural food additive. It can be added to salsas and guacamole and prepared dishes to help extend shelf life. And we have several manufacturers in the United States that are using this product actively, and they're seeing 30 to 50% extra shelf life from their foods without altering flavor or appearance. In fact, it actually enhances it. So if you're interested in learning more about our products, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I talked to you a little bit about the microbial testing. This is just an executive summary for you to take a look at. But since this, we've done even more testing and have even validated the testing by the Institute for Food Safety and Health. So, you know, again, I just want to emphasize, while we can't disclose our bacteria kill on our label due to EPA restrictions, I wanted to share this testing with you so that you know that we've done our due diligence. So as far as resources, we are just thrilled to be working with the Farmers Market Coalition. We are very strong advocates of farmers markets. We talk about it all the time. If you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you'll see I'm always posting pictures from my local farmers market and talking about how to cook with what I found there. My recent one was on nopales. You can pick up my recipes. But we've created this pocket guide to produce safety, and we've sent you all copies of it to be able to distribute at your market. If you run out, feel free to let us know. We'd be happy to send you some more, but this is a great guide to be able to share with your customers on the 411 to produce safety. Also on our website at eatcleaner.com, we have a widget that refreshes regularly with food recalls and safety updates. You can check that out. We will be holding quarterly webinars and hoping to help further education on food safety, along with monthly Twitter chats. You can follow us on Eat Cleaner Food. You'll see all of our follows down below, but also hashtag Eat Cleaner. And then we're big social media folks, so Facebook, blog updates, we're out there. And at the end of the day, you know, we are all about celebrating fresh food. We don't want to, you know, this is not about fear factor. It's not about making people scared to eat. It's about enjoying fresh, clean, delicious food, you know, sourced locally as much as possible, and showing people how, you know, they can do a lot to help protect their plates. So with that, I thank you for being part of this. I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Well, thank you, Mareya. And I'm going to try to do two things here at once, start this up and talk to you all. I'm Brian Moyer with Penn State Extension, and I need to put a little bit of a disclaimer in the fact that I'm not a food safety expert. I am, primarily my work is with the ag entrepreneurship team, so I do a lot of work with, and I see a number of folks from Pennsylvania I recognize who are joining us here today. So I do a lot of work with farmers markets, and particularly farmers who sell directly to consumers who are doing direct marketing. So you can see how this kind of crosses over. And so what I'm going to present, I just see as a lot of this is really just good business practices, whether you're managing a market or you're selling out a farmer's market. We're just trying to keep the integrity of the products that we work so hard to raise, maintain it at that high quality level, and so along with that goes with food safety, because any food safety issue may be quickly denigrate our business. So the materials I have here really come from the Farmers Market Federation of New York, which is a pretty neat group up in New York that has been doing work for farmers markets in that state for years. And it was a joint project with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and was funded by USDA Ag Marketing Service, where they put together these materials of recommendations on one that shows, you know, where food safety issues can occur, and then recommendations on how to avoid something from happening at your market. They have recommendations for if you have a CSA, just on-farm sales, any kind of direct-to-consumer sales. So I thought these were pretty useful, and I'm happy to share them with you today. See if I can progress here. I've got something on my screen.
So you should have something that's asking you to agree to share your screen. And
oh, so no one can see my screen except me.
No one can see your screen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There it is.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So as I said, you know, it's from the, as you see in the lower left-hand corner, Farmers Market Federation in New York and Cornell Cooperative Extension as ones that have really created this material and these recommendations that I'm going to share with you today. And like I said, I think it's just a matter of what comes down to be some common sense things that is really just going to improve your market and improve your business. One, you know, just so we're all on the same page, I know it seems a given, a definition of a farmer's market, but I think it kind of helped put in perspective of what they have here. A farmer's market is a public assembly of farmers selling directly to consumers food which they have produced themselves. Purpose of facilitating personal connection that create mutual benefits for farmers, shoppers, and communities. So, in our ideal world, this is why we all participate in a farmer's market, right? If you're managers, this is what attracts us to helping a farmer's market, to becoming managers of a farmer's market, because as we all know, we all don't do it for the money, for sure. And I have the advantage of being able to look at this as both being a vendor for 10 years and also being a market manager for 10 years. We don't necessarily then think of the things that could threaten our market. And if we're just a market manager and not a farmer at the market, then we also don't know what are the certain safety precautions to ensure safe participation at the market. So what we're going to look at is what the potential risks stem from that can affect your market, and then I'll give some recommendations that how we can mitigate those risks. And of course, the potential outcome of contamination can give you these results, as we're all pretty aware of. Lawsuits, media coverage. We all like media coverage for a farmer's market, but we don't want this kind of media coverage. And loss of market and income for participating farmers, that is the very least that would happen, right? It could be the end of someone's business or farming practice if a situation happens. So we can minimize our risks if we have a plan. So water is an obvious risk, but from having water at a market, if it's not a municipal source of water, then it should be a water that all water has to be potable, but it should be a water that has been tested. It should go through the microbiological testing that should be conducted by the requirements of that county or municipality or state that you're in. Some of them are annual, some are twice a year, but at any rate, on the safe side, if it's not municipal water, that water should be tested prior to the market season. Another thing that can be a factor is our products themselves that we sell at the market, that we're offering at the market. And farmers that may be participating in this webinar should understand and implement some good agricultural practices, some GAP practices to minimize food safety risks that exist in production and post-harvest handling. Now, that's not a requirement usually to be at a farmer's market. Generally, GAP certification is a requirement maybe if you're wholesaling, because some of your customers that you wholesale to may more and more are starting to require GAP certification. So I would recommend that if you want to know more about GAP training, at least GAP training will give you get you to think about how you operate on your farm and where you can make some adjustments to help maintain the quality and the safety of the products that you work so hard to produce. And do that through your local extension office. And I know now's the time to start thinking about that, because over the winters when we all have got our time to get our various education things in, and that's when you'll find some good GAP training going on. It'd probably be a good idea to have signs at your market to reflect that you're conscious of this. And then give some recommendations to the customers, because we also know that majority of the foodborne illnesses, right, happen in the household. They're not necessarily happening, from how their products are handled or maybe mishandled in the household. So helping your customers to handle your products with the utmost care, it might be a good idea to even think about placing some signs on the market, suggesting that customers wash their produce when they get it home. Because as Mareya pointed out in her one slide with the top 10, that the top 2 were what? Eggs and leafy greens. And that's what we're going to find at every single market. Value-added products. So for those folks, who are market managers, and you're trying to determine, you're seeing a stand like this at your market, or someone wants to come to your market with a stand like this, the question I get a lot is, what is required of these folks? because they're, at least in Pennsylvania, they're not necessarily required to have a license because it's considered non-potentially hazardous foods, but they are required. They are, because they don't necessarily have a license to market, but they're required to have oversight and licensing from the state for their facility in which they are preparing their baked goods. So in other words, it's a certified kitchen type scenario. And so they should have, if someone's looking to come to your market, you ask if they have an inspected kitchen, do they have their licensing or whatever, or permit, whatever's required from the state for their products. They should be able to produce those for you. Animals. Now, what's the recommendation for having animals at the market? Well, the recommendation is don't have animals at your market. But that being said, I also know that a lot of markets through the course of their season, maybe once, twice, a couple times during the season, because they have access to a farm that has animals that they can bring to a market for like a petting zoo type demonstration, they do it because it's a very popular thing and it draws a lot of people. And it's really good for the market in that sense. So with that, if you can't follow the first recommendation, here's some substitute recommendations that they give. The market should maintain a designated area for animal hygiene. So in other words, animals are going to do what animals do, and they should have a place where they can do it that's not by the market. And also you want to consider where that is with the prevailing winds in the market. So, and also things like a hand washing station, some signage that asks people to please wash their hands before returning to the market and handling food products. Pets are another thing that's very popular at the market. People love to walk their dogs through farmers markets. Some recommendations that you may want to consider is how can we prevent any kind of incident or dogs eating the food or thing. They ask the people bring them that they be on a short leash. You have so many people those roller things and they let the dogs go 15 feet out. I think it's perfectly acceptable to ask them, say, hey, just for your safety, the dog's safety, everybody's comfort, can you shorten the leash on your dog? Vendor hygiene. So yeah, I want to buy sweet corn from this guy. But we also know, probably all been to markets where we've had vendors who may have this kind of appearance. And Lord knows on the weekends I like to have this kind of appearance minus the cigar, but I don't want to show up to market looking like this. It's just not professional. Some people think it's okay because it's that rustic look, more or less trying to put through the stereotype of farming, of what farmers look like. Well, we don't need to do that. It's not necessarily good for business. We could at least be washed up, shaved, have clean clothes on, and not necessarily go to the market looking like we just come from the field, because it also doesn't project how clean your food is. You may have worked very hard to all the proper procedures on your farm to bring to the market best possible, cleanest product you can, but if your appearance doesn't reflect that, that work, you're not doing anything to enhance your sales. Consumer contamination. And we've all seen this at the markets too, where we, especially with sweet corn, right? Piled high on the table, everybody likes to rifle through it, like I don't know, a bunch of people at a white sale, trying to, pulling the things down to look at the ears. And so the best thing you can probably try to do is figure out with your display of how you can minimize how much handling the customer can actually do of the products you bring. If you think of this like looking at this bin of apples, well, I would rather myself put those in a box and dictate how that is displayed. That's one, appealing, and two, allows the customer just to pick up the box of apples or little basket of apples and pay for it accordingly without going through every single apple in the bin. So little things like that can really help minimize risk, and also hold the integrity of your product. When you think about bruising and everything that can go on with your product with numerous people handling it in the course of a market day. Product displays. That's or displays themselves, how we display them, like I was saying, is going to make a difference in how much we're going to be able to control customer handling of that. And food on the ground. This is a pet peeve of mine. I got two pet peeves that I'll show you, and you're going to see them both. All food should be kept off of the ground or floor during storage and displays. I mean, I don't eat off on my kitchen floor. I don't assume any of you eat off your kitchen floor, so why would you want to buy food you're going to eat from the floor or the ground? If you can keep it up off the ground, you know, on baskets are fine, are kind of nice, and also you can also prevent what we were just talked about previously of being able to have less customers rifling through your product. Meat displays. Now this is a challenge for one. Most of us can't display our meats like this, and that was my primary product of selling was poultry and meat and eggs. But you should think about how you're keeping them. You know, meat and poultry should be stored in separate containers. You want to think about any potential area where cross-contamination can occur. Eggs should be a separate display with their own separate coolers. Your red meats should be separate, and your poultry should be separate. So thinking about those kind of things, you're going to avoid all kinds of potential problems with cross-contamination. Display materials, and this is something, you know, we don't think about that much because usually at the end of the market day, we're going to fold that tablecloth up, it's going to go in a box, and it's going to go back home and sit in the box until the next market day. If you kind of keep in mind, while we're in the market day mentality, when you get back to the farm and you're pulling those materials out, that you could clean out those bins, clean off your tablecloths, you know, anything that's going to be in contact with the food. So that way you can try to maintain, and plus also it looks good. Have nice clean displays. It's going to only enhance your sales. Dirty tablecloths, dirty boxes, dirty bins isn't going to do anything that's going to help your sales. And this is my second pet peeve, egg cartons. Now, we're in the fall. We're going to come into the winter. Our chickens are going to stop, for the most part, drop off and laying. And a lot of our customers go away for the winter, even if we got some winter markets, but a majority of our customers we're not going to see for 4 or 5 months. And starting today, they're going to be saving egg cartons for you. And the first day of the market in spring, they're going to show up with a big grin on their face and a big stack of egg cartons. I've been saving these for you all winter. And I would grin and thank them very much and how thoughtful that was, and then I would take them home and I would throw them away. Because I got tired of having to go through all the egg cartons, because you figure 4 or 5 months in there, you'd find all kinds of debris in those egg cartons, between dead spiders and dust and dirt debris, and not to mention a good amount of them, you'd see very clearly yellow encrusted stains on there from an apparent egg that had broken in the carton. And somehow it was perfectly okay to still save that carton. So it's probably the best idea, and I realize it's an added expense if you can buy new cartons. But I think the thing you'll get for having new cartons is, one, you get a little more satisfaction of having a very clean product, and two, you have a consistency looking at product. If all the egg cartons look the same, you have the same display, it gives it a little more, here again, more professionalism. You can have your proper label on it with your farm name that keeps that your identity in front of your customer. Every time they open that egg carton, they know it's from your farm, and chances are they're going to come back to you for eggs. So you could potentially make an argument that you could have increased sales if you're going to have a more consistent looking product with your egg cartons. Even when they would bring back my egg cartons, I would throw them away. Also, temperatures is something we really got to think about. Cold things have to stay cold. Warm things got to stay warm. Something like eggs, at least in Pennsylvania, the requirement is 41 degrees or below. You should be able to maintain those temperatures from the time you leave the farm and transportation to the market and at the market. So however you're doing that with coolers, with ice, with whatever, you should be able to monitor those temperatures at all times. So that would be keeping thermometers in your coolers, so you can always monitor if you're going to need more ice or how the temperature is being maintained throughout your course of your market day. And of course, you think about warm and hot products, we're thinking about more prepared foods and ways that you're going to be able to maintain those temperatures as well. And labeling. Well, here it says Pennsylvania labeling laws, but of course you're going to want whatever the label laws are for wherever you are that have to be followed under your state recommendations or requirements, I should say. And labels are just a good thing. It's a good marketing practice. Here again, I was saying transportation is, there's potential sources of contamination. Think about when you're loading up the truck. Like if you're looking at this truck, an example, you see he's got totes, he's got coolers. If I look at that cooler in the back, the blue cooler, I can see it's also got a drain valve on it. Is that drain valve closed? Is it going to be, if I've got frozen chickens in there on ice, is that water going to be leaking onto my totes in transportation if this is a hot day and that ice is melting? So always be thinking about potential cross-contamination. Whether you're going from your cooler from the farm or to your truck and then eventually at the market. And airborne contamination. Well, it seems pretty obvious, but I also know from doing farmers markets, and probably had done this myself in the past, that we get this time of year, we get these 70-degree days. We show up for market day, at least right here where I am in Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful blue sky day, and you just show up, say, I'm not going to put the canopy up. It's a beautiful day. I just set my tables up and my displays, and here we go. Well, we're also now raising our risk level, our potential risk level of a potential contamination to the products that we're offering. But also, I think about it in other terms. I always thought of my canopy that this is my store. This is my 10 by 10 store. And so it's when I have my canopy up and my displays up, it's sending the same signal every time that here is so-and-so farms, and I'm saying I'm open for business. Just setting up with the table and your displays doesn't really seem that make connection, and also I think it's a little more flea market looking, personally. And we like to think that our farmers markets are a step above that. So some final additional considerations for farmers markets: bathroom facilities. Whatever bathroom facilities are being used at the market, are they clean? I always think of the old McDonald's story. McDonald's #1 priority, I've heard at one time, or maybe still is, was their highest priority in the restaurants was how clean their bathrooms were, because they knew that mothers could always feel comfortable stopping to use the restroom facilities for them and their children because they were always clean. So while they're there, they were also going to get something to eat. And considering that women are still the majority of your shoppers at your markets, all our facilities and our vendors, the cleanliness of the market is only going to go further in enhancing that market. Traceability is another thing, and what I'm referring to in that is just your signage. If we go back to the egg cartons, having the proper labels on there that identify the farm, having a farm sign at your stand just makes sense. Because if they're there to buy your lettuce this week, you would like them to come back again if they really like the quality of your lettuce. So is your farm name on that bag of lettuce? If it's cut lettuce, you have a farm stand sign or banner? Having some consistency about that is just going, here again, enhance your business. And along with that, if some markets are allowing producers to sell products that they're not producing on their farm, but maybe it's produced by a neighboring farm, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to have it as a policy that those products are labeled as what farm they come from. So, here we go. That's what I have to present. I would just leave you with the thought that what's really impressive in farmers markets in the fact that here in the midst of a recession, we're still seeing growth in farmers markets across the country. And I think the latest USDA records that came out in just, I think, in 2011, they grew another 9% across the country. And this is exciting, and it's exciting for our communities that can have easier access to freshly grown produce, but it also raises the risk of the odds of something happening, given looking at those top 10 products. If we're looking at leafy greens and eggs being the top products, the more we can do, I think, just to do some of these recommendations can help minimize the risk, and all of us have successful community markets. I think we're going to post, and Liz will be able to help us with that. I have a checklist that the New York Farmers Market Federation and Cornell have made, one for market vendors and one for market managers, that you can kind of use as your, every market day checklist of making sure that your bases are covered with some food safety recommendations. So I thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Liz.
Thanks, Brian. So now we're going to have our Q&A, and we have a few questions that have been coming in. So if anyone else has a question that they haven't asked yet, just go ahead and type that into the question box in your control panel. So give me one moment here. So Brian, the first question I think was for you. My questions have disappeared. Oh, there they are. The city here suggests that the farmers market relocate to the largest livestock auction in Oklahoma, and we think it's a food safety issue via the wind blow surface contamination. Are we right? Do you have any advice or suggestions for Kathy, who's concerned about this request that they move their market?
It does sound like a valid concern. I would see what the local health department folks would have to say, and maybe even recommendations, from them. They may not like the fact that the market would move to the livestock auction also. And someone like, the health department, who probably works daily with the local municipality, may be able to help your case in that.
Yeah, they might be a great advocate in that situation.
Yeah.
Mareya, are you there? We had a question for you.
I'm just unmuting myself.
Yeah.
I'm here.
We had a question about your products, and Dan was wondering if they could be ordered online.
Yes, and we also have the ability to process wholesale orders for everybody. So if you are interested in buying more than just a couple units, if you can email me, or you can email info@eatcleaner.com, we would be happy to share with you our wholesale list. And we have a very small minimum order requirement, just 2 cases. So in a lot of cases, it ends up being a much better value.
Great.
So Liz, if you could share info@eatcleaner.com.
Sure. And I also have another question for you, Mareya, about
sure.
Sorry, hard to scroll through. Which ingredients are responsible for improving the shelf life?
It's actually it's a synergistic blend. So it's not one certain ingredient responsible, but it's a combination of citric acid, sodium citrate, sea salt, and calcium ascorbate that work together to balance pH and the calcium ascorbate is an antioxidant blend. So together those four ingredients work to help extend shelf life by inhibiting bacteria growth, and then the calcium ascorbate helps to prevent browning.
Great. Brian, here's another question which I think might fall into that category of it really just depends on what the state rules and regulations are, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there, and feel free not to answer it. A county I work with is requiring vendors to refrigerate apple cider, which then triggers that vendor to buy a permit from them. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, and that is tough because it depends on where you are and what the regulations are.
Yeah.
Because in Pennsylvania, it is at least now one regulation for the whole state, and before it was depending on the county, and even the municipalities in that county could each have their own regulations if they had their own health departments. In other words, instead of the State Department. So that does make it difficult because depending on where you go from county to market, it may be different regulation every time. At least now in Pennsylvania, the regulations are supposed to be the same wherever you go. Mm-hmm. If it is in Pennsylvania, that is the regulation in Pennsylvania. When in doubt, you should know the regulation. And you should know where to get that information or find out from whether from your extension office or from the state or county health departments, what are the regulations for participation at a farmer's market. And because if you're armed with the knowledge, then you're ahead of the game.
Yep. And he is in Pennsylvania. So
the license then doesn't come from, the license doesn't come from, and they can contact me offline on that,
Another resource that we have, it's in the resources page that I've sent a link to everybody. We have an ongoing state resource list. It's a Google Doc that people can add or edit or change any of their state resources for food safety regulations. So if you're not sure where to even start, you could look there and see if your state's already there. If your state isn't there and you know who the regulatory agency is and you want to post any important information, please feel free to do so. I have another question, Brian, and this is two questions put together. I'm wondering how this presentation is usually, or what's the best way to get this information to the vendors at a market. If the vendors themselves aren't coming to one of your presentations, how do you share this information with them as a market manager?
I would recommend most markets, I guess, generally have at least in the East here, generally have a winter meeting where we're talking about any changes to the market for the upcoming spring, summer, fall season to the market. Maybe there's voting on new vendors who would like to come into the market, and I think that's a good time to say, this is what the market is recommending or requiring. You may even to go that far, because I think these recommendations are not over and above anything anybody wouldn't do if they thought about it, for their own product.
Yeah.
Usually I'd say, most times the farmers are just too busy to seriously sit down and think about this. They're thinking about their planting schedule and their harvesting schedule and getting this stuff to market and blah, blah. But if they think, in between those steps, what has to occur to maintain, the integrity of that product all the way to the end consumer, they would just do it, the same as you do anything else in your farming practice. So yeah, I think just sharing those recommendations. I think if you're easing that into and you're handing those recommendations out, hey, this is to help you to sell your product really, and improve your sales and maintain, like I said, keep saying maintain that integrity of the product, because in the end, that's what we're really trying to do. And to the point where that maybe evolves into requirements to sell at this market. You know, you're setting a standard for your market, and your customers are going to appreciate that too.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I think that wraps everything up. I don't see any more questions coming in. So I want you both to know that those were great, very informative presentations. Thank you so much for taking the time to put that information together to share with us. And thanks to everybody who joined us on the webinar. And we have another webinar coming up on October 10th on farmers market trainings and certifications. It's going to be an open dialogue webinar that everybody is invited to attend, and I'll send out an email about that tomorrow. So stay tuned, and thanks again, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.